Gunther's your new world champion, and the rumors swirl that the reason he became world champion and beat Jey Uso last week on Monday Night Raw was to set up what we all knew was coming. And they tried to hide it a little bit on Monday Night Raw, but Goldberg made his return, set up the match for Saturday night's main event on July the 12th in Atlanta. And it is for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, somebody like myself and Brandon as well, we all got into wrestling in the heyday of The Rock, Triple H, The Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And a part of us to this day, right, while watching wrestling, would always get hyped up around WrestleMania and other events, which featured those particular wrestlers, the nostalgia acts, if you will. I like wrestling and most of the young guys, but I didn't necessarily grow up on a lot of those guys. So which keeps me young, which keeps me fresh, is when The Rock and all those guys and Stone Cold get involved in wrestling. And then I can kind of share it with people who have kind of got out of wrestling for a little bit. It also gets me excited because it reminds me why I care. Because let's face it, Brandon, there was probably 10 years ago, there was some lean times in wrestling where we all thought, what is it that we really still like about this? What makes SummerSlam and Backlash and all these events still feel important? And then a WrestleMania comes around, John Cena and Triple H and all the big stars come back, and then you get hyped up again because you are reminded about why you care. But I think this year specifically, 2025 is the year where I got to that threshold where I'm ready to just be done with the people of the past. Crazy enough to think somebody like myself who grew up on Triple H being his all-time favorite guy and Stone Cold and The Undertaker, and I would be more than happy if WrestleMania next year features none of them. And Goldberg just reminded me of that, because it's not just Goldberg, but it's kind of the litany of all of them. But we've talked about this before. Goldberg, and listen, I'm okay with Goldberg being involved in wrestling if it's something not important, but to be honest with you and 100% factual, I'm okay with Goldberg not being involved at all. It's not just he's involved in the World Heavyweight Championship picture, which I'm not a fan of, but if you were to say, okay, can he be involved at SummerSlam or at Night of Champions or at Saturday's main event? I would say sure, but I'm also okay if he's not at all. Like, it's not like I want to see him at those things. It's more just like, that's fine if he is, but I'm not excited to see him really in any aspect. I'm done with Goldberg in every way. I don't know about this retirement tour, this retirement match. He's had enough of those, I feel like. What is your take on not just Goldberg, but just kind of like Triple H? I think he has soured my taste for him this year. The fact that now we just see him as the face of this money-grabbing company, and he's the one that's coming out and talking about all this money that's being made, and we're kind of soured on his wrestling career. Now just look at him as that kind of guy who is, oh, great, look, he's on the television. He's probably announcing that WrestleMania is going to be in Saudi Arabia so that they can make lots of money, but he'll say something else like, it's because we want to break records. Like, it's because you want to make money. And then we get The Rock this year, which this year has been the worst year I've ever known, right? The Rock hasn't had a worse year, has he, in the world of WWE, right? We've only seen him come out and just be nonsensical for most of the time that he's been in WWE and not show up at WrestleMania when you expect him to be there. As for Hulk Hogan, obviously he gets booed in his return to WWE for a minute this year on Monday Night Raw. So with all that to digest, what is your just take on these nostalgia acts? John Cena, we haven't gotten him yet, but just what nostalgia act, I guess, are you not sick of yet? And are you okay with? And are you also sick of these? Are you just ready to move on to a WWE where it's Gunther and all these, and Jey Uso and the main people that are involved?
Well, okay. Let me. That's a lot to digest. You are correct. I'll start with that. But no, I with these legends like a Goldberg, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, like the list goes on and on. I could go all day. We just saw, women's. I don't even want to say diva, but women's superstar legend. Nikki Bella was part of things recently, which I know we'll talk about that in a little more detail later. For me, it's all about if you can go and you can make a passable match. I'm all for it. Like, I don't care. Billy Gunn, on the AEW side, the guy looks jacked. You know what I mean? And he can clearly still go in the ring. But if you're like a Goldberg, I guess the latest memories I have of him are he can't really go. He botches things. and he's not. I don't think it's very safe for other competitors like a Gunther to be in the ring with. So if you're putting others' safety at risk, you're putting yourself at risk, and you just can't make a passable match, then it's time for you to go. Or if you still have the itch, maybe once in a while you come back and you spear somebody and you go back to your retirement. But like a guy like Goldberg, he just can't go anymore. And I'm just hoping and praying that he doesn't try like a jackhammer on Gunther and does something to hurt Gunther in his career, because Gunther is the present and the future of this business. So I worry about that more than anything. So again, any of these legends that you mentioned, or there's so many. There's a long list of those legends. If you can still go and make a passable match, I'm good with it. But if you're like a Ric Flair, he should have retired, 20 years ago. Let's be honest. If you can make a passable match, sure. But if you're at the point where it's like, all right, we've seen you long enough, move on. I want to see the superstars up today. I'm not happy with Gunther essentially taking the title off of Jey Uso, who was on fire. The merch sales have been fantastic. He's so over. Just so we can get Goldberg, one last potential title run, one last title match, whatever. And to me, that part sucks. But again, it's all about passability. If you can,
I will say, you bring up Billy Gunn, right? The difference, I think, again, with the Billy Gunns of the world, and maybe even the Christians of the world, a lot of these guys are nostalgia acts to an extent, but they are still like full-time competitors. A lot of the people that I've mentioned are just like marketing shills nowadays, right? Hulk Hogan's not coming out to wrestle. Hulk Hogan's coming out just to advertise some beer and to just say his catchphrase. If Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out, it's to give off the attendance announcement and run someone over with his four-wheeler at WrestleMania, right? So, I mean,
to go there.
John Cena, you give him somewhat of a, and I'm kind of, I guess, happy now that we're on the way to be done with John Cena. I was looking forward to this last year, but this heel run has just been awful because it's just not really believable in an extent. I would love to see a heel John Cena that's believable at Elimination Chamber. That was the hottest moment of this entire year so far, when all those things happened, because we thought they were going to turn into something great and none of them did. But like, The Rock, he's just showing up to make a mess of things, right? He's showing up to announce WrestleMania in New Orleans only for that to go back. He's showing up to announce that he's involved with Cody Rhodes, only to just say that at the end he's trying to sell ticket sales and then ruin the whole storyline and give the whole behind the scenes. Triple H is only showing up on WWE television so that he can tell you about how much money this company has just made and that kind of nonsense, and to feed the I don't want to say propaganda, but to feed, the lines that TKO wants him to say, that whole inauthenticness. So The Undertaker, right? What's The Undertaker doing? The Undertaker is just coming out to shill his podcast, to shill this show he's doing, maybe to show up on Netflix to make it, what he rides out with Rhea Ripley or something on the motorcycle. Like, yeah. It's not like Billy Gunn. It's not like Christian. It's not even like Edge, where they're kind of doing stuff. Like, I feel like all of these people, Goldberg included, because even though he's got a match, it's not to come back like WWE. It's not like the Edge came back in 2020 to come back for a run. It's to come back to just be a gimmick and go away again.
Well, Jared, here's what I'll say to all that. I mean, I don't have a problem with somebody who's, let's just say, they're way past their prime. They can't make a passable match, but they hit their move. They hit their gimmick. That's cool once in a while. Like, I don't need it to be all the time. So I guess I'm a little different in that aspect with you. I don't mind that part of nostalgia, but I don't want to see a nostalgia act like we're going to see with Goldberg and Gunther, where unless Goldberg surprises me, I just worry for the safety of Gunther. That's my take on it, because Goldberg, even in his prime, Bret Hart will tell you other stories about how Goldberg works. That's a story
about
for
his opinion on Goldberg.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that will say what they will about Goldberg and in his prime and his work. Now that he's an older person, like he's what, I think he's in his late 50s now, give or take. It's maybe 60s. I don't know his age off the top of my head, but I know he's at least in his 50s. I do know that.
Yes.
But to me, he doesn't make a passable match anymore. Like, I still remember the time when, I think it was not that long ago, where he put Undertaker on his head, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, and what we saw that time in Saudi Arabia, I mean, those Saudi Arabia shows early on, I remember we saw like Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Undertaker and Kane and Goldberg and all these people who at that time, really couldn't go.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it's just the idea that like I'm thinking maybe 2 years ago today, if I was watching Raw or a PLE or something like that, and The Rock's music hit, I would be I would be jacked. If Triple H's music hit, I would be jacked. Probably not Goldberg. I think I've been done with him for a little bit longer than that, but maybe 2018. I might have been, pretty excited if his music hit, those kind of things. And now I can tell you, if I'm at a live event and Triple H's music hit, I'm just like, all right, we get it. He's going to come out and I imagine his music will hit at SummerSlam, right? And be like, welcome to SummerSlam. All right. The Rock's music hit. If The Rock's music hit and he was to come out at any event I'm at, I'm booing. I'm booing because he kind of just did all this other nonsense. I think it's good right now that we haven't seen him in a minute because of the nonsense that, he did earlier on this year.
Yeah.
And then obviously Goldberg, right, is the same. When Goldberg's music hit on Raw, I was like, we all kind of knew it was coming, but I was kind of hoping it wasn't. I would have been more excited if the segment ended and there was no Goldberg. Or if, Gunther originally during the segment talked about Goldberg and then shrugged it off and then started talking about Seth. And I got a little excited there for a minute. I thought maybe we're just going to lead up to Goldberg and Seth and those, things aren't true. But then Goldberg's music hit. He came out. Nothing of importance happened, essentially, other than just saying you're next, right? And it was just like, all right.
Here we go again.
And I will say too, which is something we get in WWE nowadays that we've never gotten before, and I say before, I mean 5, 6 years ago. And that is Michael Cole saying the rumors are true because now with social media, everything is leaked, everything gets out. So everything is already like the rumors are true instead of like before. If this was 2005 and Goldberg's music hit or Austin's music or someone's music hit that he wasn't a part of the Daily Show, he would have been, wow, what is he doing here? I can't believe he's back. And now it's just like, yep, what you heard on social media. Yep, you already knew this was happening.
Like the times of old, like you mentioned, like 2005. I think 2005 or it was like early mid 2000s. I remember Stone Cold at an ECW show in the arena. That was cool. Like, you don't expect to see that. Like, that's kind of cool. But, like, yeah, you're right. With everything with social media and the rumor mill and all that stuff, like, the surprises aren't really surprises anymore. It's kind of that's the
CM
lost
Punk
art
coming back, Cody Rhodes coming back, Goldberg coming out. I mean, all of these things, right? Michael Cole just says when these things happen, the rumors are true, meaning that we know you already heard that this was, gonna happen, that kind of thing. So it's just one of those, it doesn't give off like, what is he doing here? You know what I mean? Kind of thing. It gives off like, yep, we tried to swerve you maybe and to think it wasn't gonna happen, but no, it's gonna happen.
When do you remember when was the last one you were genuinely like, that's cool?
I don't.
Mine was like the Hardys. Mine was the Hardys back in the WrestleMania. That was probably.
Yeah, and there were some rumors, but we weren't at the age where like the Hardys are backstage right now, right? Or the Hardys have been spotted walking into Camping World Stadium, or anything like that.
They were doing like indie shows that week or the weekend. I think
they were our ROH tag team champions. They faced the Young Bucks the night before. We're putting on an indie show that afternoon of WrestleMania the next day. So they were definitely around, and there were definitely like the rumors, but at the same time, they weren't like now where it's like like for example, the rumors of Goldberg being involved at Raw. It wasn't like rumors that we could just, if we didn't hear it, we wouldn't have known. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, well, they're in Atlanta and Gunther's been calling out Goldberg. You know what I mean? Like, we couldn't put those kind of pieces together, meaning that Goldberg being there was just a actual, like someone spoiling it kind of thing. It was just because because we saw Gunther and Goldberg do that thing in Atlanta at Bad Blood last year, right? So we did see that. But no show, no Monday Night Raw, no SmackDown, no PLE said Goldberg's going to be there. Goldberg's going to be a part of this. They're going to set this up. It's going to happen at Saturday's main event. They specifically like did that about this show. They were like, he's going to be there. Wow, what's his tie to Green Bay? It doesn't matter. He's going to be there. So it's not like us fans kind of putting together, kind of like guessing, like, you know what I could see happening? This was literally me just reading Goldberg's going to be at Monday Night Raw, setting up this match. It's going to happen not next Monday, not last Monday, not on SmackDown, not at, another event. It's going to happen on Monday, this Monday, boom. And then it did. You know what I mean? So it was just like, okay. And when Gunther's music hit, I stay tuned because I flip and go back and forth a little bit on Monday nights when I'm watching Raw. And when Gunther's music hit, I was like, all right, I have to watch this segment because Goldberg's coming out. Like, it wasn't even just like a rumor. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like the Hardy Boys thing. It was like Goldberg's coming out and they're going to announce this and it's going to be for the world title. And it happened exactly like people said it would. And it's frustrating. I was hoping, maybe it's not for the world title. Maybe they got that part wrong. Nope, they got it right. It's for the world title. You're like, oh, all right. And that's a little disappointing. I'd say the R-Truth thing was a little bit of a surprise. But yeah, I mean, the Edge coming back at Royal Rumble 2020, that was a surprise to an extent. I mean, he did make some appearances during his time while he was quote unquote retired and did some things where he got physical on occasion, but that was somewhat of a surprise. But yeah, I mean, Cody Rhodes, there were rumors, right? And that was a tough one because of the whole AEW ties, and you're like, could it really be? But yes, I mean, Michael Cole, I think once Cody Rhodes came out, said, the rumors are true, that kind of thing. So it was like, we know you've already heard that this was probably the route we were going to take.
He does that a lot now. Like, he does that with, like, I think he even did that with Jeff Cobb, now JC Mateo. I think he did that rumors are true thing. Like, I feel like, or at least, I don't know. Actually, I think that was on SmackDown. So that was, I forget his name off the top of my head, the ESPN guy there.
Oh, Joe Tessitore.
Tess, yes, Tess. Mm-hmm. It like Tess does something similar as well. Like that's kind of the shtick now. It's like I feel like they like know that like the rumors are out there, so like when it happens, they just embrace like, yeah, well, the rumors are true. You saw it on social media, kind of a thing.
I guess and this is just something I don't understand. Social media, I don't think has anything to do with it. I don't know why WWE they gotta know how to be able to clamp down on this stuff better, right? I don't know how, because here's the thing, like social media has existed for a while when there's been it's recent now, but doesn't mean that social media didn't exist. There's always been rumors and these things, but now that people know, like
you know what it is now,
right down the line.
You know exactly what it is. There's somebody inside TKO WWE that leaks it to the like the Meltzers and the Wade Kellers and the SRSs of the world. So I mean that's what he does. That's somebody's doing it. Somebody's leaking it. Like there has to be a leak somewhere. And like I just wish WWE would try to figure out who the leak is, because like Meltzer gets the information, SRS, Wade Keller, you name it, you name the wrestling people out there, even though I mentioned one that I don't care for, which I don't care for Meltzer, but he gets his information from somebody's leaking.
I'll at least, you talk about, I'll give Meltzer some credit. At least he's kind of been this person for decades, which is trying to be a news source, if you will. There's these ones out here which are just to not break news, but to just tell you what's going to happen. Like they're not to rate matches. They're not to talk about ratings. They're not to do those things.
Meltzer's been wrong so many times that like when he says something, like I think, okay, it's going to be the opposite, because like Meltzer, like, and it's been debunked, like the stuff he's done over the years. He's gotten it from people, like his sources are there. They're disgruntled people within an organization that feed him a bunch of BS, and then he runs with it because it's Meltzer. Like
I just don't know why they don't feed theyese other, like I said, there's just things like social media has nothing to do with it, right? We all work at jobs. We've talked this before. I can promise you social media exists right now, and there's lots of stuff in lots of important jobs that you don't know about, right?
Yeah,
you don't know
social media. Yeah, but I'll disagree with you on one aspect. Social media does break things too, because you'll see people that are wrestling fans or people that are breaking news or just regular fans like you and I, where they're like, all right, well, WrestleMania is in, venue A oh, guess who I saw eating lunch?
Well, there are definitely social media can do those things. But listen, if I'm in a meeting with Triple H, because here's the thing, there's lots of stuff about WWE we don't know. So obviously there is things that they can keep under wraps, right? There's lots of things. What exactly is Triple H's weekly paycheck look like? We don't know that, right? What does anyone's like this person's weekly paycheck look like? What kind, these kind of things we don't know, right? So if we don't know, if there's a way for us to not know things, right, then there's a way. It's the same as before. I imagine before, even when social media didn't exist, it's the idea of, hey, us four people know this. No one else needs to know this. It's out of this loop. It's easy enough. Triple H, like, well, I didn't tweet that. Hardy Boys, did you tweet that? If you didn't tweet it, then it should keep under wraps. You know what I mean? Like, it's those kind of things. I do understand that they got to let some sponsors know about, put out posters and these kind of things. If somebody said, listen, I work at a factory that's printing the poster for Saturday's Main Event and I saw Goldberg on it, that way I can say, listen, all right, I got you. Goldberg's coming back at some point. But the people who are like, Goldberg's coming back on Monday Night Raw to set up this match specifically, that's like, how do you know that? You know what I mean? And that's where that stuff should be easily be kept under wraps. The fact that he's coming back in general, or the fact that you rumor or think, well, when could he come back? Do you think it might set up a match for SummerSlam? You think he'll be back for Saturday's Main Event? Like those kind of things. But the fact you're like, he's going to be on Raw. It's going to be a middle segment. It's going to be set up this exact match. That's more than just, hey, I saw a poster with Goldberg on it. I think he's coming back.
No, I mean, I get that. Like, there's certain things that you can leak to an extent, I guess. Like you just said that. Like, you mentioned like advertisers and things like that. I that part I agree with. That is 100%. But you could also leave kind of the door open, like, yeah, we're gonna put him on the poster, but he's gonna cut a promo or something. You know what I mean? Like, it could, you don't know. Like, you could leave the door open in some aspect, but things get leaked, and it's unfortunate because to me it ruins what was so good about the 90s and early 2000s, where you could watch a show and be legitimately surprised when somebody shows up. Like, I still remember when Triple H returned after the quad and all that, or was it the hamstring? I can't remember. I know it was.
Yeah, it was a quad injury, but they did announce he was coming back. They did announce that he was coming back. So they did.
There was one before though, because he's been injured multiple times where you didn't expect it, and it was like,
well, the John Cena coming back at the Royal Rumble in 2008, right? That was a big one right there. And speaking of John Cena, to kind of wrap up, we talked about some of these people we're kind of done with. This is John Cena's last year. Next year, WrestleMania, Las Vegas. John Cena won't be on that card. And to believe what he has to say, he's done wrestling. With what you've seen of John Cena's year now, halfway through his retirement, right? Is that a nostalgia act that you're okay with being done with? Or are you going to, I don't want to say you're going to miss him, but are we getting to a point during this nostalgia that we're kind of getting a little oversaturated? Because many years, obviously, before this year, it was more of a treat to see John Cena, right? We only saw him once or twice a year. We saw him at Money in the Bank come out as a surprise and talk about WrestleMania in London and those kind of things. Are we starting to now take John Cena for granted in this sense? Like, when his music hits, are you just like looking at him as John Cena, the character, and not John Cena, the special attraction?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I'm looking at him as the character at this point because you just said it. We're oversaturated, but that's by design because it is his farewell tour. So, it's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, I still also in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, we're going to see him more than we have in the last, say 5 to 7 years because it's his farewell tour. So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm still taking it. I'm still, there's still a part of me that's excited about it because, these are the last matches, the last appearances of John Cena. Yeah, and I will say this. I think when John goes back to Hollywood full-time and all that stuff, I would like to see him kind of stay away from the business for a few years and then randomly just show up and cut a promo or something. Not to wrestle, but just to come back and maybe rip somebody to shreds and maybe do an attitude adjustment to like an Austin Theory or whoever the comedic act is at that point.
Austin Theory is a good pick for all of that.
So. Yeah, 100%.
I feel like that's
my point with John Cena.
Austin Theory is the new R-Truth, if you ask me, right? That kind of, it seems
which is sad too. Which is really sad because Austin Theory to me at one point, and we talked about it, he had the rocket strapped to his back. He was going places. Now, obviously, Vince is no longer in the picture, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it's like all we see of him now is when you see a talent walking in the back, you see them, you see him talking to the New Day and Waller. It's like that's all he's doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes out of SummerSlam to get like slammed by Jelly Roll or something like that. Yeah, I would like to see more of the Austin theories, less of the John Cena's, but I'm okay, with John Cena. Obviously, we talked about that's a little more by design, as you said.
Yeah.
But when it comes to these nostalgia acts, Goldberg is first and foremost. You're not going to ever hear me say Goldberg one more match. I was very surprised he got the ovation he did. I don't know, if people are just kind of like excited, just to see a
Well,
big name. But once you see him so much, now it's kind of ruined. And listen, Goldberg has definitely ruined that reputation, I think. We saw him come back in like 2016 and 2018 and 2020. And once you've done that enough, and again, you don't come back with anything of substance. He comes back just to essentially bury a talent, bury a Bray Wyatt or something like that, so he can give himself the world title, bury a Kevin Owens so he can give himself the world title, and then just lose it at the next pay-per-view, just so he can have like a short little run and get to run around with the title. I mean, it's all, and also we most importantly his record, right? Again, awful. He comes back and loses, and if he wins, he then just immediately loses. When he comes back, wins the world title,
so
then
it's
loses,
like,
or
what's the
comes back
point?
and loses.
It's like,
Yeah.
what's the point?
So this whole like who's next? Who's afraid of Goldberg, realistically, right? If wrestling was real and you were looking at him from his win-loss perspective, it's not intimidating, right? It's like the Colorado Rockies coming out right now and being like, "Who's next?" And it's like, "Yeah, okay, gotcha." We'll just and then they lose and then they go away and then Goldberg comes back in 2 years and goes, "Who's next?" Especially of all people, if he wants to do that to Austin Theory or some like talent like that, which you could get over. But Gunther, really, this is going to say I'm very interested to see where this kind of goes because this is going to be very telling if they make a Gunther, a current Goldberg, if you will, a current actual intimidating star have to go down 1, 2, 3 to Goldberg is going to be very telling, and time will tell. And frankly, as soon as Goldberg is done here, I can't wait for my eyes. Whether he wins the world title, loses at SummerSlam, I hope that it doesn't even last that long.
I agree.
But I am done with Oldberg in professional wrestling and the WWE. We don't even have to induct him into the Hall of Fame because he already had that many years ago. So